This platform tackles one of marketing's most overlooked headaches: localization that actually feels human. It's a really clean product, a very smart founder, and probably just a few minor tweaks away from way more conversions. We fixed all of that in this Clarity Jam by grounding their headline in their real pain, the slog of adapting creative across languages, and pulling hidden social proof up where it belongs on their homepage. Let's dive in.
Hi, my name is Ashish Jha. I am co-founder and CEO at Native Technologies. We are based both in SF and London. Native is the AI culturalization engine for all visual content. What this means is businesses can finally bring their brand voice from their one original language to all different languages slash cultures of the world.
I love it. And how did you come up with the idea for Native?
So before this, I was a machine learning lead at Revolut. It's a massive fintech company in the UK, London, and I was part of the. I was witnessing the company grow from just being a unicorn to more than $40 billion in worth, and a big part of the recipe of success for the company has been massive geographical expansion. And so the playbook for how businesses can go to different countries, geographies really came to me. And also, personally speaking, I have grown up in different parts of India, moved to Europe 12 years ago, lived in four different linguistic regions: the French part of Switzerland, Germany, the Dutch part of Belgium, and then most recently in London. So I deeply empathize with the actual reason why businesses should be able to go to different cultures, different markets, and because of AI, the barrier has never been lower than it is today.
I love it. And who's your kind of ICP? Like, what do they look like? Is it typically one champion who is buying the software and the key decision maker, or is it the champion of a buying committee? Tell me through, kind of walk me through kind of who is buying Native and what that process actually looks like.
Yeah, so there are actually two ICP modes for us. The primary ICP are basically any marketing or localization agencies. So whoever is a consultant or a kind of an account director at such a place, because localization is usually a burning problem for them, for all marketing assignments or any projects that they're running. The second ICP, which has got more traction with us so far, is individual brands, and so localization managers or growth marketing managers, all the way up to potentially chief marketing officer, depending on the size of the company. We are targeting small to mid-sized companies. A mid-sized company here could be a number of employees being between 100 and 1,000.
Awesome. And what's kind of the main pain point that you sell for these companies?
Well, so for selling to agencies, there are different pain points for selling to agencies. Marketing, I like to compare the world of marketing to something like selling to Hollywood. So the decision making process is very human oriented, it's very non-linear, it's very obscure. So you need to get inside the marketing community to get the buy-in. So us, both me and my co-founder, not originally being from marketing background, but both being from technical slash AI background, that has been a pain point. But we have obviously found our ways to partner with marketing domain experts. And then for the second ICP, I would say one of the pain points I can recall is we are building a localization engine that also does the creative work for you. As soon as I say the word creative, the creative people usually are very averse to AI, or at least have been, and the needle is moving as we speak. So it is a bit of a hard sell when it comes to convincing the decision maker, especially when the decision maker has to convince the creatives within their team. And we try to position ourselves as not the replacement, but as an enabler, which is the case most of the times. Just like cursor is an enabler for programmers and not a replacement. And so, yeah, that is always a bit of a pain point for us.
Got it. So you almost have to straddle the line between sometimes the decision maker is not the same as the creatives, and sometimes the creatives are a little bit resistant to using AI. So you kind of have to position it as an enabler.
100%. We have seen two kinds of like very extreme reactions. Some of them just love this thing because they just want to get this job done. Localization is not never a task anyone, I think, is thrilled for, because you have already the creative work done. You just need to make sure it remains the same, more or less, and is translated to the other language or culture. And so we just want to do the boring job. We don't want to create from scratch a beautiful marketing asset. So some of the people we speak with are thrilled and they are ready to buy yesterday. But then there is the other part, which is when they see this as a threat, as a replacement, and potentially something that can also start building marketing materials from scratch, which is something we do not foresee us doing in the near future.
Got it. And what would your kind of core customers be doing if native didn't exist? Like what were they doing before, if anything at all, or, what would they be doing without native?
Yeah, so we have done extensive research on this as we were building native. So there are a lot of agencies. So this whole work is done, I would say, pretty inefficiently through agencies who hire human translators on a contract basis. I'm not sure how well those are paid, but it's an on and off kind of a job because these are sporadic activities. Localization is never like an ongoing activity for any business or brand. Well, for most businesses or brands. So if we didn't exist, this would be carried on through humans. There would be at least one person who would be busting their head because they have to manage so many different processes. There is Spanish going on for something, there is Hindi for speech, there is Chinese Mandarin translation going on in another thread. So managing and also humans doing this manually is how it would be done and is being done on a large part so far.
Got it. With that in mind, do you want to go ahead and pull up your homepage so we can kind of take a look at it section by section? So the first thing I'm seeing on your screen is, first of all, you have a really clean, minimalist design. So big kudos there. So I'm kind of seeing your H1 being your brand, every language, speak to any audience without losing your tone. But I wonder if you could get a little bit more specific, because this to me reads as very much, very, very high level and very, very broad, which works really well if you're Apple or Google and you're a gigantically well-known company, but it might not work as well for, just in my own experience across many of these priority jams and also across the clients that I work with at doing positioning and messaging. It sometimes can break down for a company that is a startup or isn't a household name yet. I'm wondering if you kind of mentioned before, it's basically taking the pain out of localizing ads. Could you make that into your H1 as opposed to your brand, every language, which doesn't tell you anything about that?
I actually really like what you just said. Kind of also fully agree with what you just said, which is we are not established as a brand yet. So I completely take that as a feedback, and if if anything, this might change in the nearest future.
Yeah, totally. I would definitely encourage you to do that. Like this headline works amazingly well if you're Apple or Google or Clorox or someone who's a really big brand. But when you're a
Yeah,
startup, you want to be, in my own experience, you want to be really clear, because being clear is how you're going to get a lot more signups. Which brings me to my next point, which is get started. So I'm assuming you have a product-led growth engine,
yes.
or are you wanting to do demos?
We are doing both. So there is a prosumer mode going on, which is like we have the self-serve. So if you click on get started, usually you would be
Mhm.
taken to a sign up page. But because I already have signed up, so I was going to the dashboard. But yeah, that's the goal, to take people to this login sign up page and they can start using our platform directly themselves.
Yeah, that makes the whole having your H1 be even clearer that much more important, because if you want people to sign up and just get started without even having to talk to you, then you want your H1 doing the heavy lifting for you. The other thing I'm just noticing here is you have 8,500 plus creative assets localized by native and across 30 languages. Why is that buried in like tiny 12-point font when it should actually be that subhead or even in your H1?
That's actually also a good point. Yeah, I think because this came, I think the reason is in time. This was a more recent idea, so this was finding its place on this page, and we haven't really heard too much of feedback around this, whether people are liking this or not. But as you are indicating that you actually like what you're seeing here, it's a dynamic page, so it keeps on updating from our database. So actually, yeah, if not H1, I would actually escalate to some level like H3 or something.
Yeah, like where it says speak to any audience without losing your tone. I like that line. However, I would almost just combine it with that dynamic piece about 8,500 plus assets created, because that's automatically social proof right there. Plus, you also
Yeah.
have the image showcasing what your app actually does. So at
Yeah,
that point, it's going to make it so incredibly obvious who this is for and who it's not for. And you're going to see a big bump in just new signups just by doing something like that.
makes sense.
If
Yep.
you want to scroll down to the next section, so I see, okay, now you see social proof. I like the logos. It makes a ton of sense. I would maybe caution you to maybe suggest is like you have a couple of testimonials or a case study, like a big quote from a case study, or like 3 testimonials. I usually like to say the rule of 3 because rule of 3 tends to convert better across hundreds of landing pages that I've worked on and or have seen through these query jams. Could you potentially keep the logos, but maybe add in something just kind of in there as well? It's like, hey, here's a direct quote that really speaks to that pain point that comes with localizing ads and UGC in a way that would work really well naturally.
Sure. We recently added case studies as a separate section on our page, but I see what you mean. They could
Yeah.
also be somewhat indicated when we are talking about the customers here.
Yeah, like I like the logos. I would maybe consolidate all these logos into like one row. Like there's a reason you see it at, like below the hero section of pretty much every software page. You see that row of logos. It's annoying, but it also works. People
Mm-hmm.
want to see it, people expect it. So I'd maybe consolidate these logos in that same sort of logo row that you see across pretty much every site, and then utilize this blank space and pull out 3 of your either one standout quote from a case study and then link to the full case study as well, or have 3 standout testimonials that just further reinforces, hey, people are using this. We've created over 8,000 assets.
Hmm.
These logos are mentioning this. Here are the testimonials.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then scroll down to the global expansion section. So walk me through a little bit about what you were thinking about this section.
This is more of a setting up of where things are today, and like setting up the problem, which is how today it's being done, why is it hard, and then what are we offering in terms of the current way of doing things, which is completely manual, as we discussed.
I like it. You're basically following what I always tell everyone to do across these things and what I do myself across all my clients, which is you want to set it up with what I would call lead with your messaging wedge. And that is a thing that's kind of the last thing someone's thinking before they sign up for you. And then from there, you want to kind of tell a story. So I usually like to think in terms of the past framework. So waiting for a problem, to your point, global expansion is hard. Then I obviously see the next section, which is the solution. And then what I would kind of layer on top of that is kind of those wow moments that they're not necessarily the things that are going to get somebody to immediately sign up, but once they're already bought in, they're the things that keep it really sticky and keep them using and paying for native.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah. So scroll down to the introducing section. I like it. So this is kind of your solution is from what it stands. I like the fact that you're showcasing an example in Hindi, I believe, as well as in English.
Yeah, American English. Yeah.
Makes tons of sense. I would maybe say that you might want to think about making these hosts launch instantly everywhere and then seamless visual adaptation. Is there a way you can be a little bit more specific? Like specificity about what they're going to see is what, in my experience, converts.
I see. So bringing this more to the actual platform, what do you get out of this tool?
Yeah. So like, what is it? So what is like when you say launch instantly, like, is it something that you can literally convert and localize and add in like seconds? Like, what does it actually do? I'm actually asking that question, and then can you elaborate on that within the copy?
I see. Yeah. Yeah. This part, I think it's been maybe 6, 7 months since we touched this. So I think that is why this has kind of aged now. We need to revise this.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do that. And then also, like, what do you mean by visual adaptation?
Yeah, that is kind of, as you see the background in these images.
Mhm.
So the background is adapted to an Indian setting more than in the left. It's more about the American setting, or at least one interpretation of the American setting. So that's the adaptation to the audience, because this is supposed to be for the Indian audience.
I like it. I would maybe what you just said there, I would put that within that section because I don't think it's necessarily super apparent that the actual
Hmm.
background can change as well as like, just the copy inside of it.
I see. Yeah, makes total sense.
Scroll down. Okay, so now you have pricing. I
Yeah.
see a wall of 5 different options. Walk
Mm-hmm.
me through a little bit of why you have 5 of them.
So obviously, we want people to not have like a huge barrier to getting experience with the platform. So there is this free trial kind of option. which gives them some credits, which is good enough to run, enough to get a taste of the tool. I will jump then to the third one, and I'll come back to the second. The third one is more for, when I mentioned small to medium sized companies, this is more for the small sized companies because a lot of customers had very small quantities of localizations needed per month. So to have them, like to have a tier for them, and then the premium is for the mid sized companies from 100 to 1000 employees who have a slightly larger throughput of localization of materials. And for everything bigger or everything else, there was enterprise. And then we introduced pay as you go, because as I mentioned, it's somewhere in between, localization can be sporadic as an activity for many businesses. And so they didn't want to sign up to a monthly structure, and so for them it was basically you just top up as many credits as you want as you go. So hence introducing this section for them.
Yeah. What plan are most people on?
I would say pay as you go because it provides them the most flexibility.
Got it. So in that case, I wonder if having 5 different options is probably creating a little bit of too much friction, and it's probably hurting your, like, I don't know your conversion numbers offhand. But my hunch is, from what I've seen here and across hundreds of pages that I've worked on, and then over like dozens of clarity jams now, is I wonder if having this many options is creating a lot of friction. So could you maybe think about putting, and I usually like to say rule of 3, I mentioned it with testimonials, doing the same with pricing as well. Could you combine free and pay as you go into one? So it's free and you can still be like, hey, it's completely free to get started, lead with that, but then just have it in one of those bullets being like, pay as you go for once you exceed your number of credits or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have basic, and then you have premium, and then you can just have a horizontal bottom thing at the bottom where it's like, hey, here's our enterprise plan if you want that. That's kind of a really slick way that I have used across multiple clients to help them when they have a lot of different complexity in their pricing, like you have, to be able to do that in a way that is a little bit less friction forward.
Makes sense. Yeah, I like the idea of merging them two together. Yes.
Because then you have your 3-row and it becomes very obvious. And then you would probably want to put pay as you go free right in the middle. So like that middle option is the one that you want people to go for. If that's the one that if that's where all your data is, put that in the middle, put basic on the left, and then premium on the right. And then you have enterprise below it.
I see. Makes sense. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Scroll down.
Yeah.
Then you have your final CTA ready to reach a global audience. Yeah, that works. I would definitely say keeping your CTA the same, your primary CTA, if it's going to be sign up or get started for free or get started, make sure it's the same text across that primary CTA across the entire page. It's like, again, micro friction, but it does make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah,
good shout.
Anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm very happy with the feedback that you gave on the website.
Awesome.